What does it truly mean to be successful? Is it money, status, happiness, impact, and how do you define it? My name is Carson Jorgensen. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and my businesses have led me to meet so many amazing people with even more amazing stories and how they define success. So join me as I continue to learn and share with you some of the amazing things I have learned along the way. This is the definition of success. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to the show today my good friend Tasha Cooney. We met under some pretty crazy circumstances. It was kind of an act of fate, if that's what you want to call it. We've just been great friends. We came together one day, and we've just been great friends ever since. And she's been a blessing to have in my life, and I am so glad to have her on here today.
Well, I am so super glad to finally be on here and connected with everyone else as well, and to share the miracles of life. And yes, it was us. It was a divine intervention of us coming together with all the circumstances and the time and the place. And it was just meant to happen. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm just glad to have you, and our work together is just beginning. It's not done, and you've been there to answer every question I've had along the way. So a lot of my success I can attribute to you and all the kind stuff you do for me. But let's jump right into it. I mean, I want you to kind of explain to everybody what you do. What is it you do for a living, and what is it you do that you love so much?
That's a good question. And I will start off by saying I serve people, and I serve people to bring them into their highest light. I remind people of their greatness and remind them who they are again. And how I do that is I use the tool of filmmaking. I use the tool of a camera. And I have now been behind the camera for over 20 years, videographer, filmmaker, photographer. I film motivational speakers, business owners, entrepreneurs, people like you that are out there spreading their message to the masses on the online platform. So I help them create video content. I document events, and we take that content, we turn it into micro content, and then we blast it out on the internet. So I also take people that are fearful of sharing their message in front of the camera. I remind them who they are again, and I push them to their limits to share their message. And I just serve as a guide of a light, a beacon of light. When I'm in event rooms, I've spent over 10,000 hours in and out of event rooms in the past 10 years, filming motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, internet marketers, real estate gurus. I change the energy in the room. I shift the energy to the utmost positive, and I just have this gift to light people up and put a fire under their butt to take massive action.
Right, because I think a lot of people have messages that they want to share, and with people that you come in contact with, I would bet that more than half, maybe more, are probably somewhat afraid of a camera and afraid to share their message, which is kind of sad because for me it's never really been a problem. I've never really been super fearful of it, and everybody that watches or listens to me probably gets that and understands that. But there's probably a lot of people out there that are really fearful, and there's probably a lot of messages that we miss out on because people are fearful of sharing those messages, and what you do is help them to overcome that. And like you said, when you talk about your energy, I noticed the same thing when the event that we were at where we kind of met, you were the same way. It was kind of starting to get a little dull. Things were kind of going downhill, and by the time you got around to doing it, the energy in the room changed, and I think that's a positive change that a lot of people need to see, and they need to have that upbeat energy, and they need to be able to maintain that state, as Tony Robbins would call it, to live their highest self.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And I think most people too. Well, most of us, we're all human, and it happens. And there's times where I have something called 365 Days of Awesome, where I post a video every day on social media on my Facebook page. And there's even some days where I don't feel like sharing myself. Like I just don't care at the moment. But I come back to the core of what is my purpose, what's my intention, what am I trying to share with the world, and if I don't get that message out, I'm depriving someone that in that moment of that inspiration. And that's what I encourage people that do have a message. They're trying to get out there. They're trying to share themselves. What I find mostly is that there's something deeper that's stopping them from sharing. And even with me, it's something deeper. If I don't want to get on the camera today, it could be because maybe somebody made me upset, or maybe something's not happening right properly in my business. I lost a client, or we spent too much money and over budgeted on the client, and the client's not paying. So these internal issues are stopping me from being my greatest. So what I try to do with clients is I try to get them past those internal and external circumstances and bring them back to the present moment, the present of who they are, and remind them of that greatness. Because really, Carson, we hear all about the the motivation. And in my perspective, this moment right here is the only thing that we can control. And if we're controlling this moment right here constantly, now, and we're controlling it to form to our circumstance of what we want, and we're constantly aware in this moment, we can really create anything that we want to create. So I try to encourage everybody to start here, start now, and stop thinking about what didn't work yesterday.
Right, and for me, that's the same. I've really actually been thinking about that a lot lately. It's what we can control and how we can create our future by controlling the moment, because we can plan for the future. We can look back at yesterday, we can see our mistakes, and we can do better. But really, the only thing that we can do, and you look at it any way you want, but the only thing that we can really do is act in this moment. Well, I mean, what are we going to do right now to influence tomorrow? I mean, you can plan and you can talk, but until you actually start doing something, until you start going out there and moving after what it is you're after, which is this moment. And the way you said it, I really just like how you said we control the moment that we're in. And so many people get caught up on yesterday's mistakes, or they get caught up on what they're going to do tomorrow, and they overplan and they overcompensate, and then they find themselves crippled and can't actually do anything. And so we need to control our mindset that we're in and make the most of every moment that we have, because what we do now determines where we're going to be in the future.
Yeah. Well, last night, and see, we're human too. Sometimes we get so bad, we're like, oh, well, we should know better. We should know this. Last night, I laid in bed and I got stuck on a thought for about 20 minutes. And then I started to feel the chemistry in my body. And I was like, I stopped myself and I became aware of the thought that was coming through my mind. And I said, what are you doing, Tasha? Why are you choosing to be stuck on this moment in the past that you're trying to correct by a mere thought, which you cannot even control? So let's go to sleep and let's wake up in the morning and let's rock our day out. So that's what I did. I forgot about it. I turned on some music, and then boom, I fell into a deep sleep state, and I felt better. But if those of you, looking to change some things in your life, go look up Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. This is some guy that I listen to on a daily basis, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And that's Dr. Joe Dispenza is Dispenza. And this guy's going to really give you some motivation. And you haven't asked me this question, but I'm going to ask it and answer myself. Like, how do you maintain the moment? How do you maintain the frequency and the vibration? How do you maintain living into what you want to become? It's really just practice. And it might take a year's worth. It might take 2 years worth. It might take 3 years worth. But it's that constant moment-to-moment practice and decision of saying, I'm going to overcome this thought. I'm going to do it this way. Last night, Carson, I broke my phone at the gym, and I could be upset, but I was sitting in my room, and I'm working, and I'm like, I got to get to the gym. And then, of course, depression comes over me.
Right.
And I'm like, forget the gym. And I was like, you know what? Nope. Stand up now. Walk out the door. Go to the gym. That's what I did. I stood up, walked out the door, went to the gym, got to the gym, totally was in a different vibration, totally made that change within the state of my body, started working out. And then I'm working out so awesome. And I'm like, oh, I'm so cool. I just made it to the gym. And then my phone flies out of my pocket, hits the thing, and busts open. It's a $1,500 phone. But you know what? Instead of getting upset, I start laughing, and I'm like, you know what? This is hilarious. Then the phone gets stuck on a friend of mine's text messaging, right? And this is a friend that I like, that I just met, that maybe I'm kind of in love with. And if he's listening to this, hey, how you doing? Now we've figured out, what's behind Tasha's mind.
We've
But my
crossed the
phone,
border.
yeah, but my phone gets stuck on his text message. And I'm like, this is hilarious. What a sign. Like, I'm stuck on his text messaging. And instead of getting mad and upset over $1,500, right? Oh my God, my phone is broke. What do? I make a solution today. I'm going over to Apple Care, getting it fixed, and letting everything else go. But that's it. You know, you got to be constantly taking the action to start doing.
Right, and you said something right there that I really think is really important. Is we need to make a decision for action. We've got to stop. Man, I have been thinking about this a lot because I follow politics pretty closely, and I don't want to get into that. But it seems like everybody's shouting about problems. Everybody's wanting to talk about and tell about problems, but yet I have yet to see very many people actually start just talking about a solution, because we can get stuck on problems. We can get stuck on so many things that are just problems, and we beat ourselves up about them, and there's nothing good that can come from beating yourself up about a problem. Once you start focusing on a solution and be more solution oriented, then you can start to bring back the happiness and actually get somewhere, because happiness comes from progress and happiness comes from moving forward. But as long as you're stuck in a state of not moving by focusing on that problem, we find ourselves in an endless cycle.
Yeah, it's an endless cycle, and you know, it's tough. It for me, and I don't want to say it's tough to relate to being in the personal development world and in the business world, and really just like just hanging up with the high end CEOs, the visionaries that literally I'm hanging out with people, Carson, where we say an idea and the next day it's executed. Okay, so I'm hanging out in LA. I meet a contact. We're talking about something. How can we play together? How can we create together? Okay, well, let's create this documentary. Okay, I've got this going on tomorrow. And literally within 24 hours, we've already executed our idea and we're on the way to the next. We're building for the next. And I think most of us, we're not looking for those resources. We're not leveraging those resources, and we think that things are just so unattainable. And sometimes it's hard for me to relate when I go into the regular 9 to 5 society. And I'm not saying anything is different, but when I'm hanging out with my friends that have not been exposed to the personal development, the business world of entrepreneurship and possibility, you know, you go back in that world and it's back to 9 to 5 problems, back to, oh, he said, she said this at work, back to, oh, that can't happen. We don't have enough money for that for vacation. And it's like, how are we going to create possibility? I was just talking to my brother, and I really lit a fire under his butt the other night. Is we were on the phone, and he's like, well, I'm looking for a job. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And he wants to travel. So I said, oh, here's your solution. Go ahead and apply to all of the boat cruises all over. Tell them that you've got a bartending degree with the college that's close to you, with the school that's close to you. Go ahead and put that on your resume, put all the experience. Go ahead, go to the local bar that knows you quite well and say that you've been working there for 5 years. Talk to them, then put it on your resume, go apply. While you're putting it on your resume, go to freaking bartending school, go look it up on YouTube, go actually down to the bar, go hang out at the bar and work for them for a little bit for free and volunteer in the process of while you're applying for these jobs. Then at some point, you're going to get hired on the boat cruise. Why? Number one, you're hot. Number two, you've got a great personality. And number three is like, you are a fast worker. You're awesome. And if that's your possibility to want to travel, create it. So I've always been in this solution-based mindset of like, no matter what you want to do, there's 1,000 things that are going to help you attain it to get there.
Right. And going back here, you were talking about spending time with people. This whole conversation right here has gone to something that I was actually weird. My wife and I were talking about it the other night. We were talking about who we spend our time with and who we want to spend our time with. And we found that there are a lot of people that we tend, and I'm not naming any names, but there's people that we spend time with. And I'm not just talking about around here. I'm talking about people in general, not just me, but everyone. There are people that we spend time with that we get absolutely nothing from. There's no good that goes on the conversation, and when you get with these kind of people, nothing really ever happens. Usually it's gossip or talking about other people, just like you said. He said, she said, that's the conversation you get. But when you get spending time with this different type of people, and and a lot of times it is associated with successful people and entrepreneurs and people who understand the realm of possibilities. You tend to get into different conversations, and the tone of the conversation is always different. My wife and I, we kind of refer to these people, we refer to these kind of people as people who are asleep and people who are awake. And the people who are awake understand the world of possibilities. They've been there, they've done that, they've seen it, and they know how to make things happen, whereas the other people haven't had that opportunity, or they haven't put themselves in that situation, or they haven't given themselves that chance for the most part, and they don't understand it, so they fall back onto what they know, and that's just talking about other people and talking about things that don't matter. But you get in these conversations with these other people, and you have conversations that mean something. You start to talk about things that are important to both of you, and ideas happen, and products usually come out of it, and then great things can happen. And so much of that comes from choosing who you spend your time with, and spending time with good people and good ideas who push you to be better, or push you to want to be better.
And push you to want to be better. I like that too. I was working for a big internet marketing company just over a year ago, and I pretty much was a slave to the 9 to 5. I did a lot of amazing things. I traveled to over 20 different countries, and it was great. But what I started to realize in there was I was hanging out with people that had a job just like me, and the level of conversation for me was not getting anywhere. It was like, oh, today I'm so upset about this, I'm so upset about that. I was relating to the speakers, the people that were coming into the event, the people that were on the stage. You know what I did? I started to see them sell their products and their services and give mentorship, selling their mentorship. I started to buy those mentorships. I started to say, you know what, I'm going to bridge the gap from me being just behind the camera, and I'm going to go get mentors. So last year, I spent over $50,000 in mentorship. I've got over 8 mentors right now, and I pay people to have high-level conversations. I pay people to keep me in check. I work with them on a consistent basis. I spend anywhere from 4 to 7 hours a week getting mentorship and receiving from my mentors, and they help me through anything, through the thick and thin. They're basically on speed dial, and these could even be friends that you find in your life that really inspire you, touch, move, and inspire you. Talk to them about being your accountability.
Right. And the old saying, and I there are a lot of these old sayings that are really, just people say them, they don't really know what they mean. And for me, I don't agree with a lot of them. But there is one saying that floats around quite often, and that is, you are the sum of the 5 closest people around you. And who you surround yourself is who you become. And that is one thing that I believe you can take to the bank. It's the kind of level and the kind of energy that you surround yourself with is what you end up becoming. And I cannot say enough for surrounding yourself with people who want you to do good, and not get sucked into that crab pot of people who are jealous and don't want to see you do good, because there's plenty of those people out there. So you need to surround yourself with people, first of all, who are good people, and second of all, people who want to see you do good, and third, people who can have intelligent conversations about solutions and things in your life, and so that you can go on with it and you can actually come out with good things and not just waste days. Because as you said before, we can control this moment that we're in, and these moments come and go, and once they're gone, there's nothing you can do about them, so don't waste them.
Yeah. And here's another thing too, is you're listening to this and you're like, well, how do I find these people? How does it happen? And I think it's quite simple, where you start here. Here I am going to hang out with Les Brown this week, okay, motivational speaker Les Brown, and you look at me in 2004 living in a garage, just listening to Les Brown and people like Tony Robbins, and aspiring to be a motivational speaker just like these people. And I'm really a hardcore believer in the power of your energy, in what you're sending out to the world, whether it be God, whether it be the universe. I think on a moment-to-moment basis, we are sending prayers. We're sending them out. Even when we're not down on our hands and knees and we're praying, we're consistently sending out a vibration and a frequency of prayer to the universe, to God, to everything that connects everything. And when we're out there projecting sadness and sorrow and hatred and jealousy, that's what comes back in your life.
Yeah.
And I think most people are like, well, I'm just going to start praying when I need it, right? It's like, no, we're consistently praying. So don't worry about how it's going to show up. Know and be clear the kind of people that you want in your life, and start walking in that space, start walking in that direction, and feel into it. I'm so excited about this. I just want to share this one story.
Go on.
I just went and helped out at a homeless shelter, and it's well, they're like a homeless organization. So they bring the homeless in, and they help them out. And, I am basically just one deal away from being homeless. I'm hanging out with these guys. We all are, right?
Right.
We're all like one business deal away from being homeless. So there's nothing that separates me from hanging out over here with the homeless. So we're over here, and I'm doing a documentary. I'm filming them, and some of the most profound conversations in these interviews. This is like the 1% elite. We're asking these people that are living out in the streets, they're having a rough time, and, how are you going to change the world? The number one consistent answer between all 12 people that I interviewed was, you know what, I can't change the world, but I can change myself first, and that's going to help make an impact on changing other people, which will then change the world. And I thought that was so incredibly amazing that the most insightful people that I've ever interviewed are the people that are out there in the streets homeless, that know the power of belief, that know the power of making things happen by merely the thoughts in your mind. And what I wanted to get back with on this is, I'm talking to one of them who was a filmmaker, actually, and he had all his gear, and, he was talking, and, if you're listening to this, just forgive me, but he was like, well, I've tried this, and it was nothing but I've tried this, I can't do this, I can't do this, and it kind of went one ear out the other. I was sympathizing, and for me as a filmmaker, I made a living off of Craigslist for 10 years, Carson, 10 years. And I love teaching filmmakers and upcoming students that are busting into the world of filmmaking or any business, to, when they're starting their entrepreneurship journey, that how easy it is to get a lead, how easy it is to make a deal. 10 years off Craigslist, 3 hours a day, boom, boom, boom. I'm constantly, sending off resumes. I've got about 7 different resumes for 7 different types of jobs that I do, whether it be video editing, whether it be coaching, whether it be filming, whether it be event production, whether it be photography. It doesn't matter. I hit it every day because I had the drive and I had the passion. Well, I told my new friend this that I had just met, and he was still kind of in disbelief. Well, guess what? 5 days later, he's like, listen, I listened to you, and I've been putting in resumes, and I got a job interview, and I think I'm getting the job on Monday. He's going to be getting $3,000 a month for editing video. And this is from nothing to something within a matter of 5 days. So I'm really passionate about creating nothing to something, and it's so possible, and I love to teach people the process of that.
Right. And going along those lines, kind of what you said, so many times people get caught up and I think I've struggled with this, and I think a lot of people do. It's when you want to change, when you're ready to change, and when you're ready to make something different happen in your life, you're ready to make that jump. We tend to say, I don't want to act a certain way because I don't want people to think that I'm different, that I'm changing, that I'm trying to be. I don't want people to think that I'm faking it. But to become who you want to be, you have to act like who you want to be. And you've got to consistently be that way. And I think so many people are afraid of people judging them and saying things about them. And for me, that, like I say, that's never really been an issue. I really have zero care for what people have to say about me behind my back. Like, I'm going to act in the way that I want to act. And that's just me, because it's my life and I have to live with the consequences of my actions. So I'm going to be, if I want to be a big deal, I'm going to act like a big deal. I'm going to make the steps and take control of those little moments to make my life come around to where I want it to be. And so many people, I think, get caught thinking that they can't do it. And they get in that mindset that somebody's going to judge me, that it's never happened before, so why is it going to happen now? And like I say, you've got to become who you want to be by being who you want to be.
And that's it. I was on the phone with one of my business coaches the other day, and you have to be reminded too, no matter how many times you're in this, personal development and you're working on yourself, it's also you got to remind yourself and keep yourself inspired. I'm sitting here talking to one of my business coaches. He's like, "So how's it going?" And I was just in a low vibration, and I said, "Well, this isn't going right. This isn't going right. This isn't, and this, and then the client this." And then he looks at me. We're on a Zoom call, and he says, "Okay, so that's how everything's going. So then what's the reality in your business right now?" And then I just looked at him and I was like, "Wow, you're a genius." Everything that I just complained about was the exact reflection of what the current reality was. Yeah, and it was. And it was so simple. And it was like, to have that reflected back onto me so quickly, right? Some people go into depression for weeks over something like that. Literally, he changed my mind in a couple minutes. And then what did I do the rest of the day? Business calls, focused on what I needed to focus on.
Right. And so a buddy of mine one time, and I think I told you this once, and a friend of mine that was on this podcast a while ago, Coleman Proctor, he told me one time, if we don't continue to push ourselves, if we don't give ourselves a reason to succeed, it makes it pretty difficult to succeed. And what he was saying is he is a professional rodeo cowboy, and he trains and sells horses for rope horses. And what he had a horse that a guy had agreed to buy from him. And so he was getting ready to get married to his wife. And so he bought her an engagement ring because he knew that the money was coming. Well, the guy backed out on the deal. And so he's got this engagement ring that he has to now pay for with no money. And he says, I put myself in a situation where I had to win money. I knew that I had to win. Like I had no choice. And so he says that weekend I went out and we just kept winning and winning and winning. And he's like, in 2 weekends I'd won enough to pay for everything and more because I knew that I had to. And I'm a firm believer that going outside of your comfort zone that's the reason why, is that we have to push ourselves to the point where we know we have to do it for it to make it. And I found the times in my life that I'm the most productive are the times when I need it the most, or when I have to have it, or when I've made a commitment to where I have to put myself, and I've said it out loud and people know, well, now I'm held accountable and now I have a reason to succeed.
I love that. And that's a great reminder. It's like, it's, for me, I find myself in the same spot. I will make myself get into the spot where I have to do that. And it's like, sometimes it gets so scary. I love jumping off the edge. And like, literally, I'll push myself right to the ledge to be able to really then push myself further. And if I find myself in comfort zone, like we're done, Tasha. It's a new Tasha all over again. Like, when you get in those patterns where not much is happening in your life, or, you sit down and you watch TV every night and you're noticing it's been a 2-week trend of watching TV and then you've not gotten much done. And it's like, wait a second, we've got to push ourselves back out on the ledge again. Let's go. Right. I love the spontaneity and the excitement of pushing myself out on the ledge.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you. So where I want to go now, and I hope you're okay with this, but I usually start out in the beginning with everybody kind of telling their story from the beginning, but this conversation took off in the direction that I wanted it to go, so I wanted to keep going down it. But if you don't mind, can you share a little bit about kind of your childhood and growing up? Because I want people to understand how successful you are today, but not only that, but where you came from.
Yeah, I'd love to share that, Carson. And I'll start off with, I'm in when I tell this story, you're probably going to have some judgment, and I really don't care. And most people, a lot of people do have judgment based around it. And I do have mentors that tell me, hey, you might want to word your story a little bit differently. And recently I've met a coach and mentor that we're working together. His name is Robert Galinsky. If you have an opportunity to check out thebench.com, he's created a theater show that promotes and brings in awareness with homelessness. And I think it's thebench.com. Hang on. It's actually not. But anyway, it's called The Bench. If you look up Robert Galinsky, and it is The Bench. So anyway, I'm working with him to craft my story a little bit differently. He helps out with, I want to just get it correctly. He helps out with TED Talks. Okay, it's called thebenchplay.com. Thebenchplay.com.
Gotcha.
He's going to help me craft out this story. But the reason why I'm saying this first is because I've been getting a lot of people, especially mentors and higher end people, saying, don't be telling your story like you are. People are going to think you're crazy. People are going to think you're nuts. But here, let's go. I'm going to go ahead and tell it.
No, because but before you go on, people kind of say the same thing to me sometimes. So many people, especially in the personal development in the speaking world, have kind of tried to get me to change my craft, to change the way I deliver, and to change the way that I say things. But for me, my wife was criticizing it the other day, and not to cut your story off here, but I think this is something we need to talk about, because the other day my wife was saying, when I do my subtitles, I sometimes spell things a little different, but I spell them the way that I say them because I want to be completely authentic. I want to get across what I'm saying. When I say cuz, I spell it C-U-Z, not because that's not what I said. I don't talk that way.
You said cuz.
I said cuz, and so that's the way that it's going to be. And so I think people, and I am so grateful to all the people out there who listen to what I have to say, but I truly believe that this level of authenticity, and for me, and you can do what you want, I mean, that's all up to you, but for me, I have always wanted to keep things as authentic and as close to the heart, because people have an innate ability to understand what's going on. People have a sixth sense. I mean, animals have it as well. Animals show it in a physical way, but people understand it in a mental way. And I tell people that all the time, that what goes on in our physiology is that we really, truly understand what's going on, and our subconscious makes a judgment based on what's going on and what that tells us. And so if you're not completely 100% authentic, then people are going to see it and people are going to understand. So I think and for me, I need to keep my authenticity level as high as I can keep it.
Yeah, no, agreed. So I'm about to keep my authenticity level high here. I totally agree. And I'll start off with this. So grew up a wonderful childhood in my own mind. But I was born into my mother, who was manic depressive. She suffered from manic depression illness, and there was a lot of mental abuse, a lot of physical abuse. There was one moment trying to kill me, throwing me over a bridge. And at a very young age, and I would have to say at 5.5, I had the ability to understand that my mother was a wild animal. And I'm not saying she's a wild animal, but I had this discernment to be able to detach myself from her and not get love from her. And today she's my best friend. Let's put this up, because usually when I tell this story, people are thinking I'm talking about being a victim. And they look at me and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then I look at them and I'm like, "Look, I'm not telling you this story because I want sympathy from you. I'm not telling you this story because I'm a victim. I'm telling you this story because I want you to apply it to your own life." There are so many adults out there right now, and so many people out there right now that are in suffering, and they're in this disgusting hatred towards their parents because of what their parents did to them when they were younger, and they've not healed themselves. They've not done their inner work on their child. They've not gotten past those blockages that are blocking them, not only in their normal day-to-day life, but their business life, their personal life, their sexual life. I mean, this is deep intimacy that this stuff will control you if you do not release it in time. And so the relationship with my mother, even though I'll give you a little bit of taste of it. So we would be eating breakfast or something, and I'm sitting there eating, and my mom would come from the other room, and she would come up to me with this demonic, psychotic voice, and she would say, "I should have killed you when you were born. I hate you." And excuse my language, you can beep this out later, but it was just, tears would come down my eyes. I'm a 5-year-old kid. I don't understand. I just want love, and I don't know what's going on. And so, again, what I started to see, Carson, is I started to play a game. I started to test God. I started to test God, and I'll tell this quick story. I wanted a Ken and Barbie doll for Christmas. I wanted the Ken and Barbie doll matching Barbie doll. Now my mom wasn't always in a psychotic state. Okay, she was in and out of the mental institution. Sometimes she was nice, sometimes she wasn't. Depend on what she wanted. And so one day we're at Toys R Us, and I'm about probably 5.5 or so. We're in Toys R Us. I see this Ken and Barbie, and I want it so badly. I'm asking my mom for it. She says, well, we don't have enough money for that. We can't get that right now. She says, but you can get those Barbies. And she pointed to these Barbies at the bottom of the shelf that were plastic. And I knew those Barbies broke easily. I didn't want it. If I wanted something, I wanted to invest the money in something so spectacular. I wanted this Ken and Barbie doll, the marriage Ken and Barbie doll set it came with. And so, I said, I don't want anything. Something interesting happened. We walked out of the store. I'm in the car, and I realized at that moment, well, wait, I can't have it physically, but I can have it mentally. So I started to play with it. I'm a kid with an imagination. I'm not stuck on, I can't get the Barbie doll. I'm not stuck on my mom's negative energy. I'm not stuck in her world of depression. I'm not stuck on what she never got and couldn't have and wanted. I'm stuck in my own childhood imagination, creating the lifestyle I want, creating the future vision of a future family, somebody I'll marry one day. And this Ken and Barbie, they reflect exactly what I'm going to create, what I've never had and what I don't have at the moment and what I want. So I'm playing with the Barbies and all this. And one day I'm at church, it could be a month later. I'm at church and I'm sitting at church, and we used to go to Catholic school or Catholic church. And my mom was also the Catholic school teacher. And, she could keep a head straight, right? So if you've ever dealt with anybody with a mental illness in your life, and trust me, we all are manic depressive. It's just a choice. I believe it is a choice. And I won't even get into that. We won't get into the politics of that. But anyway, so we're in church. I'm looking around at everybody. I'm watching everybody pass money up. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why is everybody giving money to the church and we don't even have money for food? Why are we giving some money away when we can't even eat a meal at night? Like, this is just, I don't understand this. And then I'm watching people look at the pastor, and I'm noticing some people aren't even paying attention. And so I'm questioning myself. I'm like, who is God? What is God? Why are we doing this? Why am I being beat at home? And my mother is an angel here at church, putting on a facade, but yet I see the devil at the house. Like, I don't understand this, God. And so Christmas time's coming up. And I start thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to test God. I'm going to test God, and I'm going to test Santa. I'm going to test my mom. I'm going to test everybody. I'm going to play this game. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sit on Santa's lap, and I'm going to lie to Santa and tell him I just want underwear. And I am going to tell my mom, lie to her, I just want underwear. And I'm going to pray to God every night. I'm going to pray to God that I want this Ken and marriage Barbie doll set. That's what's going to happen. And I told, and this is the kind of game I'm playing. And here is, I'm not playing the game of my mom hates me. I might be getting abused at this time, but I don't care, because all I care about is the mindset I'm creating for myself. I don't know what it is, but thank you, God, I was able to really define and create my own life since a child, regardless of the circumstances. And so here I am making this game every night, talking to God, playing with the Barbies. I take them everywhere with me. Christmas time comes. Santa's sitting on Santa's lap. I lie to him. I lie to my mom. Now it's Christmas Eve. And I'm praying, and I'm like, I'm going to get these Barbies. I'm going to get these Barbies. They better come to me. I wake up in the morning. I'm so excited. My mom's excited. I'm excited. I get out there to the tree. I stare around the tree, and I look for the box, because I know how big the box is. And I don't see any type of presents under the tree that fit the dimensions of the box that the Barbies were in. And so I just kind of stand there. And I look, and I'm debating in my mind, like, did I just waste all this time every night talking to God that I don't even know if God is here, whatever? And what is going on? Like, why is this box not here? Well, maybe it is here. I'll open up everything first. So I open up everything, and it's not there, Carson. It's not there. And I stand there, and I'm just in this moment of sadness and in this moment of disbelief that I've put so much time and effort into creating this reality that I'd have these Barbies and loving myself and loving my future and loving everything despite what's going on. My mom kind of comes into the room, and she's like, so what, you don't like your toys? And then I snap back into human reality, and I look at her, and I can feel her. I can feel people. And I look at her, and I can feel that she has this moment of sadness, because now in hindsight I look back, she wanted me to like the toys. She bought them. She spent her money that she didn't have on these toys for me to feel happy that Santa has brought them. And so I felt the energy of that. And I looked at her like an innocent human being. And I said, oh, I love them. And I turned around and I looked at the presents under the tree. And I said, God, it's okay, because I've had these Barbies. I've had them now for months while I've been praying to you. I still have them next to me. Okay, Barbies, let's go ahead and enjoy our toys. So at that moment, I shifted my mental state. I shifted everything in my life. I shifted the hatred, the upsetness. And I said, you know what? I'm going to enjoy these toys for her. And I'm going to love that I still have these Barbies in my imagination. Okay, fast forward a few weeks. Me, my mom, my stepfather, and his mother, we are going like dumpster diving, basically. It is spring cleaning or something. I don't know what it is, but I just remember this visual moment. We're all in a car. We're driving through rich people's neighborhoods that are throwing stuff away, and we're basically parking in front of their house, and we're taking their garbage, what seems to be garbage, and we're shoving it in our trunk of our car. And I'm sitting here in the car, and I'm like, what are we doing? I am way too good for this. Why are, and then, we get to the next house, everybody's jumping out. My mom's like, oh, I found towels. Oh, I've got this. And I'm like, I'm literally sitting in the car, like ashamed of going through garbage. I'm looking at families eating inside, and I'm like, I should be inside of a house eating with that family right now, not being in front of their yard looking through garbage. Well, I start to get curious because everybody's getting happy and everybody is just exuding the joy and shoving everything in the trunk. We get it to about the fifth or sixth house, and I start to get curious, and I'm looking out the window. And I'm like, what is this? Maybe it's not garbage. And like, I finally look out, and at one point, I see a Barbie doll box. Like, if you were ever into Barbies, they would sell those boxes that you put the Barbies in, and they flip open, and they're like kind of plastic. Well, I see one from afar, and I detect it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look, let me get out of the car. And then so I kind of pretend that I'm liking what they're doing, and like, I get rid of the feelings of, I'm too good for this, and I run up there, and I see a Malibu Barbie case. It's got Barbie in Malibu, California. She's got a surfboard, and I look at it, I open it up. It's the Ken and Barbie with the marriage clothes on, used. And my mom looks at me and she goes, oh, great, you got Barbies. And she kind of pushes me out of the way, like, get out of my way, I'm putting it in the trunk. And I stand there and I start to tear up, Carson. My tears there's a tear coming out of my eye, and I'm looking up. It's like right at dusk, and I'm just looking at, I don't even know what the heck I'm looking at, God. And I'm like, wow, you heard me. And at that moment, I realized more deeper than anything that this woman, she's just someone that is teaching me lessons. Like, okay, she's a mother, great, like biological, but there is something so much greater here that is guiding me, that is giving me the signs, that is watching over me, that is taking care of me. And I know it. And I knew at that moment, no matter what my mother did to me, that she was an angel. And so today, my mother is an angel. And so everything that we went through the thick and thin, this is a story of passion, of love, of triumph, of forgiveness, right? Of forgiveness, to reflect back to my mother how beautiful of an angel she is and the life that she could not have. So basically, she repeated the patterns of what her parents did to her, and she did it to me, right? And so at a young age, my mother was going through a spiritual awakening. And I think the family was so fearful of her intelligence and so fearful of what she knew and so fearful of the abuse that was going on at home that they just kept locking my mother away and shutting her up because she was so powerful. And I think that she sent whatever was instilled within my mother, whatever she experienced, that was gifted on through me spiritually. So I really strongly believe that my mother is an angel, and no matter what happened, it was just the state she was in that I can never and will never blame her for. I believe that we as human beings support people where they are in life and how they show up. And so if that's the way she shows up, that's the way she shows up. That's the way that I have a choice to support her. I have a choice to, help her get through that or whatever. So my mother's not been in a mental institution since the age of 25, and I'll be 36 this year. And she's a hustler, man. She sees, what she went through, and soon she will be on stages with me, and we will teach people the power of forgiveness and how we overcame that as a family and as as it is, right? And how I can love her and help her stand in her power and give her back the gifts that were stolen from her.
Wow.
And that she, so that's the story of my mother, and that's my why. That's my why of being a filmmaker, because I'm going to take this to the big screen one day. And that's it. So I hope that story touched, moved, and inspired people. And she's an angel.
Right. And see, that's what I really, when we first met, that was the story that kind of captivated me on your personality and being as perceptive as you are. And I notice I'm really the same way. I've been kind of blessed with that same gift, is to be able to perceive people and what they really are and what they really want people, from people. And when I heard this story, I knew, and at that time in my life when we met, I had been thinking a lot about that, is what can we learn from everybody that we come in contact with? And one of my favorite saying is, and I honestly don't remember where it came from, but it's something to the effect of, you can learn something from everyone, whether it's good or bad. You can learn how to treat someone, or you can learn how to not treat someone. You can learn how to live your life or how not to live your life. Somebody has something. Every person you come in contact with has something to teach you, and you were just, the way that you presented that and your ability to overcome something like that is so special. And I see so many people using excuses like that, and I don't want to downplay that at all. I don't want to downplay the abuse and the hard childhood, and those kind of things are absolutely terrible. But I see people like you who overcome it and use that as their gift. They use that as their driving force to do what they do, and now that bad thing, it became a blessing. In the time being, it wasn't a blessing. It was probably a pretty hard deal, and I couldn't tell you how it is one way or another, because I wouldn't know in that effect. But it is now your blessing, and it is the reason, and it is your story, and it is what you have, and nobody can take that away from you. So when I hear people complaining their whole entire life, it kind of bothers me that, and I truly feel empathy and sadness for them, and I wish that I could instill what you have to overcome those hard things and to turn it into your gift. But we cannot look at those things. We've got to be careful in our life how we view those things, and take an objective lens and really learn from those things and say, you know what, I am who I am because of those hard things. And that is something in my life that I have really leaned into, is I am who I am. Those hard things are the things that turn me into who I am. And so I am truly grateful for those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's crazy. So now that they've heard your story and kind of what you think in your mindset in life, where are you at now? What is it you're doing? What have you got going on? I mean, so that they can see where you kind of came from and where you are now.
Wow. Well, I like to say I'm consciously creating my reality to what it is that I want to create. I've got a lot of past experience of doing a lot of different things in my life, but the one thing that is always constant is spreading knowledge, personal development, self-care, and mindset. And there was at one point where I would idolize and look up to the greats of Les Brown, Tony Robbins. This is another one I love, Raymond Aaron, and today he's my friend. So many of the gurus and the motivational speakers that are out there, I would listen to these guys, and I over and over again, and train my mindset. One of my fans right now is Dr. Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden. So what does that have to do with now? Well, now what I do is I run a multimedia company. And we serve entrepreneurs, business owners, internet marketers that have a message, that want to share their message to the masses, and we create content. We create a massive amount of content that help display their message in a really unique and special way. And so we devise a plan of what we're going to film. We go ahead and we execute, and then we share that out there. So I support a wide range of entrepreneurs and business owners. And of course, I like the ones that can work with my budget and can afford it, and that really know that they have a purpose, and they know they want to get out there, and they know they have a message.
Right.
We also film a lot of events. We're really in the motivational, personal development, internet marketing space. We film a lot of those events. We also put on events too, where we brand our clients that are looking for an online presence. Some people, they don't have their online presence yet. They're just getting started with their online business. We run events where they come out to our retreats or our 4-day events, 3-day events, and they get their own branding package made. They get their photography, they get their little documentary stories or origin stories, however you want to call them. And we help them facilitate all that. We help them write their scripts. We help them really get redefined and defined on their niche and who their target market is and what story do they want to tell to the masses.
You bet. And I haven't really talked about this before on any of the podcasts, and I'm glad that we kind of are here. And what I love the most about the day, and everybody kind of bashes on the day and age in which we live. Like, I understand that, things used to be different and maybe some things were better, but in the world and the reality that we live in now, I am forever grateful that we have the internet and that we have social media, because now we can share ideas, we can share stories, and people can hear so many great things. We have the opportunity to become whatever it is we want. And for me, it's an amazing blessing to have all these things, all of these outlets, to now there's no holds on what we can do with our life. There's no barrier to entry, because there's no old person sitting behind a desk telling you yes or no. The internet is the moderator, and the people who are on the other side are the audience, and there's nobody stopping you from getting to them. So if you have a message, if you have something that you want to share, something that you want to do, the only thing that's now stopping us is ourselves. And I'm sitting in my basement right now recording a podcast with you, who are sitting in California, and
in the middle of the mountains,
right,
in the middle of nowhere.
Right, exactly. And there's 2,500 people that live in my town, but yet this message will reach hundreds and hundreds of people. Some of my videos on Facebook, it's so amazing to me. The one video that I had that reached 7.3 million people, it's like that is amazing to me, and it's truly awesome, and it's kind of an overwhelming power that we now have the ability to make a difference in the world because of the internet. And what an amazing day and age we live in now, where we can do these things, and you are an awesome facilitator to people who want to do that and really help them to get their message out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact how you really brought down like where we're at. You're over there, I'm over here, and yet we're reaching now huge amount of masses, huge massive people.
Right. And what a blessing it is for people to hear your story and to hear, I guess my thoughts and your thoughts, because whether I like it or not, or whether you like it or not, what we say, because we've made this choice, now influences people, and it has a direct influence on what they're going to do with their life and how they're going to live their life. And I never want to see anyone fall short of what they want in their life. I want for people everything that they want for their life, and I want them to get it, and I don't want anything to stand in their way, and I want them to realize that they can do it, and that nothing's stopping them, because they have every opportunity, especially in this day and age we have, where everything is possible.
And it starts with a decision. It starts with making that decision consciously and saying, this is it. Yeah. I want to make a change.
And it comes all the way back to what you said in the beginning, is we can control the moments in which we're in, and we have the opportunity to make these things happen if we take control of the moment in which we're in.
That's huge. I'll have to quote myself on that.
I'm gonna say you might have to use that one.
Yeah. So I can't wait to get this back up on the replay.
Yeah, and I can say I am so glad to have you on, and I honestly, we've gone full circle, and these episodes like this, they tend to do that. The ones that are come out the best, they all tend to lead us full circle to back to where we were before. So I got a few more things before I let you go. The first one is, how do people find you? Where do they find you? Tell them a little bit about your 90-day video challenge and then the 365 days of awesome. So if there is anybody out there that wants to get on this, they can do this.
Oh, I love it. So let me tell you about the 90-day video challenge first. The 90-day video challenge, and if you go to Facebook, this is how you'll find the 90-day video challenge. You type in Tasha Cooney Video Challenge 5. That's number 5, okay? Tasha Cooney Video Challenge number 5. And you'll go ahead and post all that information in there, I'm sure. It's Video Challenge, spelled all those different words. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 different words with a number. Tasha Cooney Video Challenge 5. You search that on Facebook, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to join number 5. It's because this is the 5th one that we've had, and now I'm keeping everybody in the 5th group. And what happens with the 90-day video challenge, guys, if you want to find out if you're somebody that should join this, it's right now, it's a free challenge. You go through there and you post a video every day in the group. This is a sacred spot. It's nobody's going to see your videos on the outside. It's for you to get practicing. I have training in there which shows you how you're going to come up with 90 days worth of content, topics, which is so easy, super easy. I'm going to bring you back to the basics on how to come up with the topics. Then, or you just download my topics and I've given you the topics, right? So you just listen to what I say, and every day you create a video, okay? And you post it in there. And the importance of this is because I've had a lot of people move on from my video challenge that have really created some amazing things in their lives. And from the 90-day video challenge, we went on and we did a video challenge called 365 Days of Awesome. Now, 365 Days of Awesome, I've got people doing that all around the world. We already gone through our year program. I had about 20 people that went through, and I've got people that are starting at different various places in their life. I have one woman that's taken 365 Days of Awesome to the next level. Every day she does a Facebook Live where she interviews a service hero. Okay? Wow. This is a service hero that could be a fireman, somebody that's helping out at the homeless shelter. This could be you. You're a service hero. You're bringing stories out to the masses. You're doing your podcast. Nonprofits. She's a nonprofit called Chemo Buddies for Life. So she pairs up people that are going through chemo with friends, okay, in pals. Because sometimes people that are going through chemo, you know, they're at it, they're alone. So she pairs up 2 chemo buddies, and now they're friends for life. It's amazing thing that she does. But she's taken 365 Days Awesome, turned it into a magazine, turned it into a form for marketing, right? What better way to have a platform for marketing than to go live every day on your Facebook and have an excuse for it, right? So I've been in the internet marketing space for the past 10 years too. And as being an internet marketer as well, I know a few tips and tricks there. So you can find Tasha Cooney Video Challenge 5. You start off with the 90-day video challenge in there. Press join. Go ahead and answer the questions and put where you had seen me from Carson's podcast. And then if you want to find me, there's various places to find me. But if you really feel intrigued and you want to find me on a personal level, go ahead and type in Tasha Angelina Cooney on Facebook and friend me. Okay, that's the best way to really get me on a personal level. And if you want to look at some of my websites, I have a couple websites you can put up there later, Carson. I have a all-women's retreat. It's called I Design Destiny, and that's www.idesigndestiny.com. And what we do is we run transformational retreats with women, and we go through the story of my mother and the power of forgiveness and what the process was that I went through to actually release that and create my new reality and create reality in its own. And then another, if you're interested in my photo and video services, you can go ahead and go to epicvideoandphoto.com, or you can also visit brand, like BRAND, UYOU, live, LIVE.com. So those are a couple websites you can get me at. I've got a couple things going on at once, and you'll put this under the podcast as well.
Yeah, you bet. No, we'll keep it all in there. And I think it's so important to connect people with people whom they need to be connected with, because somebody that hears this is going to need what you have, and they're going to, and you're going to help them change their life. And I love being the facilitator, being able to put people in contact with people that they need to be in contact with to change their situation that they're in and set them up for the rest of their life. And it's so cool, and it's so humbling all at the same time. And before you go, the very last question that I always pose to everybody on this is, how do you define success?
Mm-hmm.
And I know
That's
it's a loaded question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, how do I define success? I would have to say I define success when you are in alignment with your thoughts and your feelings, and you can feel that you are successful. I think success, the feeling of success precedes anything and exceeds anything. I don't think that there's an amount of money for success. I don't think that there's amount of really anything that can define success on a physical plane. I think it's more internally, and it's the way that you've got to show up and the way that you've got to feel. If I feel like crap and I'm a millionaire and I have $1 million in my bank, like, I'm not going to feel successful. But in other people's perspective, I'm successful. But I think defining success it comes from internally, and it comes from a choice that you want to feel successful and that you are successful. And it's basically a choice.
Right. Believe in where you're at. Like we talked to, you become who you want to be by being that.
Yeah. And I think that's the definition of success.
No, that's
for
so
me.
awesome.